Crash Course Live is presented by
Smash It Demolition Derbies, who host Bash for Cash, Blizzard Bash, and Capital City Carnage. Online at smashitderby.com. And Stirring Dirt Racing, host of Maymania's team show at the Golden Spike Arena in Ogden, Utah. Online at stirringdirtracing.com.
Reckless Abandon Derby Apparel and Derby Inc. Magazine. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, recorded live at the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York. And now your host, Chris Marquardt.
Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this edition of the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast. Excited to have you along for the ride with us tonight. It is upon us. We are here. Blizzard Bash takes flight this week. The opening round of qualifying is in just a couple days. National teams already moving across the inspection lifts as we speak. Mike Wurth is going to be joining us here in just a few minutes. He is on the ground in Topeka. He got in yesterday. They've already gone through tech inspection. We'll be jumping into that. We'll be talking about the challenges that come along with defending the championship after the team Busch Light, Team TBL, won last year, so we'll be able to break all that stuff down. And then in a little while, we're going to be catching up with Tony Burkhart. Tony, he had the hit heard round the world in the opening round of qualifying on the back of that Imperial. We're going to talk a little bit about how that hit has aged and a little bit of how you're going to see those Imperials kind of get picked on a little bit and where things are at in terms of the Imperials being in the equation again this year on the national side at Blizzard Bash. So without any further ado, episode number 418 on deck. We're going to be back again next week with a recap of Blizzard Bash. I'm not going to be back in New York until Monday, so we're not going to be on the air Monday. It's going to be delayed a week. You can see that I'm flying solo this evening. Brian last night had a training, and in the midst of the training, he ended up having to go to an appointment afterwards this evening, so he's not with us tonight, and I know he wanted to be here for it to catch up with Mike Wurth and to talk a little bit about how inspection has gone and things like that we've seen already happening out there in Topeka. It's been a buzz on Facebook. There's been a lot of topics that have come up, and one of the guys that can kind of give us a breakdown on everything that's happening out there is one Mike Wurth. Mike, man, welcome to the show, and hopefully everything's going well for you out there in Kansas.
Yeah, everything's been good so far. Tech was good.
When you say
pretty
tech
much
was
the same stuff every year, both drivers push it, and yeah.
The comment comes up that if you're not cheating, then you're not trying. Is that a fair assessment of the way the inspections and the way the cars are built when they bring them into Kansas?
Yes, I would say that. I mean, you got to push it to the limit. There's a lot of money on the line.
On the flip side, though,
and with this double elimination, you got to push the limits, or you ain't gonna have a car at the end.
You have to push the limits, or you're not going to have a car at the end. That I agree with. You have to find ways to make this car last through essentially 4 features. Even though you're head-to-head for a couple rounds, and it's only 8 cars on the track, you're head-to-head, you still take some pretty serious damage. And sometimes it can be catastrophic changes because the cars are so hard and they're so rigid. You end up getting the weird stuff that happens, like the mounting areas break. We've seen tons and tons and tons of transmissions get replaced out there, and we've seen people have to do motor swaps too. It's no simple task to get into the feature, let alone just to advance.
Right. It's just been it's different down here this year. I don't know, and I've been coming here since Sam first started Blizzard Bash.
Mm-hmm.
And there's national drivers not even here yet.
You guys had assigned inspection times, right?
What's that?
You guys had the assigned inspection times, right? If I remember right.
We did, and there was not a team in there when they were supposed to be or whatever, so me and Cheesy just went through.
Mm-hmm. Me
and Cheesy actually showed up last night. Corey and Craig showed up here this afternoon. They're up at the tech line now. Me and Cheesy went through tech already. Yeah, but there's still cars pulling in here, and they're national team cars. So usually we come to Blizzard Bash. Usually all the national drivers are here already.
Right.
But
interesting. I mean, certainly an interesting element. And if I'm remembering right, you guys had Tuesday inspections last year as well when it was everything all combined. It was Blizzard Bash and Capital City Carnage all put together. There was Tuesday inspections last year, right?
Which Yeah, which I think they'll all get through tonight. The national drivers will get through. They're doing it kind of different this year. All our cars have to be in the barn by midnight tonight.
Okay.
And then we got 7 a.m. to noon to have them re-inspected.
I got
so last year, I think it was different. I think it was we had our cars until Wednesday up until maybe the pit party or whatever.
Right. I remember all the cars had to be impounded, and then it was locked, and then all the drivers were in one place so they could shuffle everybody over to the heat draws.
Which I'm fine with anything. It's all good.
Right. You're one of the more laid back drivers that I remember meeting, which is one of the reasons it was so exciting when you guys were able to pull off that win, especially having lost the national spot, gone through the qualifying side, come up through the qualifying side to win, and then turning around and scoring the win last year in the national championship, which was just such a great conclusion overall for everybody. For you, having been recruited to come and help TBL with the gray and orange JYD team, there was some retirements and stepping away. Was it gone? Now I see Booger's back on the roster running for Team Octane, so there's a chance that you guys could get the chance to lock horns from across the table, which would be entertaining. It's just really good to see a driver like you and like a lot of the drivers out there just kind of go with the flow. Once you're in Kansas at this point, it's kind of out of your hands anyway. You just kind of got to go with whatever's laid out. But the nice part of this, there's been a little bit of that ability to change and improve without drastically changing everything that you guys have to go through in terms of the preparation. It might be a little less time, but I think you'll still be able to get everything through. What's out there that you've seen so far, Mike? Is there a predominance of wagons? Is it mostly Crown Vics? Has there been any surprises with the Imperials that have shown up or anything along those lines as you've had the chance to be on the grounds for a day or so? Did we lose you, Mike? Mike, are you there? Did you mute your own phone? Uh-oh. Well, that's not good. Shows that Mike's still there. He's quiet at the moment, but we knew that his team was also going through tech inspection. We saw one of the first teams to go through tech earlier today was Calisota Style. Those guys went through a couple wagons, and it is, in my understanding, as they went through without too much trouble. And then we also saw there was some discussion over Rhett Gluey's car over there, and also there was some conversation about either the Brodzinski or Songalewski car on whether that team was going to go out there with a flight of three. Not able to get anything definite in terms of that car for sure loaded up at this point, or anybody for sure definitively loaded up at any point, but at the same time, it is something that we're going to be following up on once we get back out there. We were talking about Mike Wurth and Cheesy and Craig Birkenpass, Corey Nias, all running together for Team Busch Light. They ended up taking the win last year, which was an excellent turn of events for those guys. It came down to Mike and Jerry Lyerly from the Crazy Iowans, another team that ended up coming up through the qualifying side and really legitimately earning their stripes. And Jerry was in the Imperial with no steering. Mike, plenty of horsepower in the lighter but more mobile Crown Vic, ended up burying the nose in the front of Jerry Lyerly's Crown Vic and ended up getting the win for a team that has been part of Blizzard Bash for a long, long time. Really has some lineage there, and it's great to see those guys back. What I was hoping to talk to Mike about, and Mike, like I said, he's one of those laid-back guys, so I'm not sure exactly what we would get in terms of the answer. Where is he at in terms of the pressure that comes with being a defending champion? Where is he at with the pressure that comes with returning back with the same quartet? You've got the familiarity and driving together. Is there pressure that comes with it? Is the pressure off now that you've ended up taking that championship? Is there anybody that you would particularly like to see or not like to see in those opening rounds in terms of advancing? Not so much on his side where he has to go up against somebody, But instead, looking at other pairings on the bracket, we're not going to know that until Wednesday when the heat draws happen anyway. That's something that happens on a regular basis. It's been a thing for several years now in terms of that. But what we do see is nobody really likes to say anything. Nobody mentions anybody else's name. They just say, well, we want to get a good draw. We want to try to get out of the first round and try to stay healthy. And it's really important, really, to focus on that because it doesn't matter who you draw. You can't change it. If you draw your friends or if you draw somebody that you don't know, it doesn't really necessarily change anything. What you need to do is you need to make sure that you keep your eyes on your own paper, you keep your cars intact, get out of that, and get in, get aggressive, get done, and get back to the pits as fast as you can so that you minimize your risk. And you can often see that the teams that come out there with the effort to run on defense don't fare as well as the teams that come out and just immediately punch everybody in the mouth. That's been a tried and true method, a tried and true strategy year in and year out at Blizzard Bash. So that's another one of the things that we are going to try to catch up with Mike Wurth on. What we'll do quick is we're going to take a quick break. We got some ads queued up that we're going to tell you about some of the folks that's out there. It's also going to give you a rundown on the agenda out there at Blizzard Bash with Smash It Demolition Derby. We'll try to get Mike back on the phone. We'll come back. We'll chat with him. And then hopefully we can fire some of those thoughts to Mike. And then remember, the back half of the show, we're going to catching up with Tony Burkhart and talking a little bit about that huge shot that he took with that he delivered with Team MHM on the back of that Imperial and how that has aged since then. We'll be right back.
Jeffy's Fab Farm in Fredericksburg, Virginia specializes in all of your demolition derby needs. We've got you covered from bumper to bumper. Whether you need headers, shifters, harnesses, fueling systems, or complete turnkey setups, Jeffy'sFabFarm.com can help. We've even got a Canadian branch to help our northern customers. With over 16 years in the industry, we've got the knowledge and experience needed to provide the highest quality parts and put you in the winner's circle. Visit our website today or call Jeff at 540-907-3390. Fabby says the best parts come from the farm. Jeffy'sFabFarm.com.
Smash Demolition Derby's regular season concluded over the weekend with the annual Fall Cleanup Show. That was at the Fayette County Fairgrounds, the Fall Cleanup Show opening round of action. Dylan Lewis took the win there in the Pro Stock class from Middletown, Ohio. Pro Stock Mini class, Matt Phillips got the win from St. Paris, Ohio. He also got the Mad Dog Award for his efforts in the Pro Stock Mini class. Street Stock Full Size, Zach Pryor from Greenfield got the win there. Two groups of Street Stock Mini class. Doug Houston from New Vienna won the first one. Ryan Rui from St. Paris got the second. Street Stock Trucks and Vans, Dylan Christian from Sydney took the win there. And then Youth Mini Cars, Sean Hicks from Somerville took the win. So now with the regular season officially in the books for Smash It, attention is going to turn to that gigantic postseason show out there at the Stormont Vale Event Center in Topeka, Kansas, Blizzard Bash, waiting right around the corner. November 9th through the 13th. Wednesday, 7 o'clock start for the heat draws. Again, all times posted here are the Central Time Zone. Thursday is the first round of actual on-track action. The national qualifying teams will go through their opening rounds. Inspections open at 8 a.m. Again, the action at 6. Friday, 6 o'clock start for round number 2. National and qualifying, winner side and loser side. Those will both see action on track along with the limited weld one and done. Inspections again open at 8 a.m. Saturday is the twin bill, 10 o'clock start time for the compact and limited weld teams. That's their first round, and then the youth feature. Then we'll take the afternoon break, come back for a 6 o'clock start for the Power Wheels, all 4 B features for the compact, limited weld, national, and qualifying side, and then the modified and the truck one and dones will both be on that 6 o'clock card. Pits open at 9:30 in the morning on Saturday. That all leads us to Championship Sunday noon start time for the 4 team features. National champions battling for $50,000 to win. Qualifying champions going to be seeing $20,000 to win. Additional details, rules, further details on schedules and driver meetings and everything. It's all available online, smashitderby.com, and it's going to be aired only for you folks to watch it if you can't make it out to the Stormont Vale Event Center online at derbynation.tv. So follow the links, follow the information. If you need anything more, jump online, smashitderby.com. The Unified Point Series was in action over the weekend at Buried Alive down in Dunbar, Pennsylvania, and J.D. Loreen officially clinching the 2022 Unified Point Series Championship, a new record set for most points scored, still with a couple events left on the schedule. J.D. Loreen with 202 points. He is second, chased by Steven Sickles, who has now clinched second place. Steven Sickles with 148 points in the real fight now. As for third place, Scotty Drevenak has 73 points after Buried Alive. Ty Richards is right there with 68. Dennis Hogan right there with 66. Trevor Jones, Don Santel, Bill Miller, Mark Metz, Cody Klumke back through 10th place, and then trying to break into the top 10. There's a couple other drivers that are right there on the cusp, so a lot of action still to come, a lot of things still to be decided beyond the record-setting effort by J.D. Loreen with 202 points scored. Again, that sets a record for the most points scored ever in the Unified Point Series. That brings us to the results from Buried Alive. Powder Puff class was Melanie Reed, got the win over Cheyenne Adams and Heather Ridinger. Emily Dawnbaugh ended up with a Mad Dog in the ladies' heat. The Bone Stock full-size Sean Glover got the win over Josh Decker. Andrew Myers got the Mad Dog in that class. Minivans, Ryan Decker got the win in the minivans over Brett Hibbard. Tracy Young was third. Ryan Decker and Tracy Young sharing the Mad Dog Awards there with first and third place efforts to be backed up by their Mad Dogs. Youth Compacts with Jason DiLoretto over Chase Clemo and Aiden Shannon. Bumper Swap Compact class, first of 2 wins on the weekend for J.D. Loreen. J.D. Loreen won that one. Kyle Baker, Jacob Simmons, and Nick Rivetti with the Mad Dog win there. And then the limited weld side of things, Sam Smith with the win over Sean Smith and Zach Hoffman. Mad Dog Award, Mike Klinger. Name is a bit of a blast from the past. The second win of the weekend for Steven Sickles came in the Most Wanted Fine Arts class over Josh Decker, Andrew Meyer. Jeff Fatty Clark got the Mad Dog Award there. Steven's win in the Gut and Go full size anchored that 2-win weekend. Jacob Luchik was second place. Dave Fulton with third. The 2-man extreme class, after coming out to collect the hardware, driving from the passenger side of the car in the 2-man extreme car to collect the trophies and everything, J.D. Loreen and Dennis Hogan teamed to go on and win the 2-man extreme class one and done over Chuck Rohrbacher and Mike McNett. Austin and Brian Hunt were third. They did that with almost no steering for most of the feature. The 15,000 to win points was points and a half. Tyler Dodd was the winner over Scotty Drevenak and Dylan Berger. And third, Superstock, Ken Cascadden, we're going to be talking to in a few minutes, over Mike DeFriesche, Matt Gaskin. Reaper Award went to Mel White. So there's a rundown on the results from the Unified Point Series online. To follow up with everything, 527unifiedseries.com. Up next, still 2 shows to go. On the 12th of November, Hardcore Promotions is going to host the Hardcore Cleanup Derby right back there in Dunbar, Pennsylvania. And then on the 26th of November, the season is going to conclude. Nearly a year-round effort after the season kick-started on New Year's weekend from December 2021 into 2022. Coke Promotions hosts the Turkey Derby in Wabash, Indiana, the 26th of November. On the virtual Unified Point side of things, we've got some new developments there. There we are. November 4th and 5th stars full-size show with 3 shows left on the schedule. The Turkey Derby for Coke Promotions on the 19th of November. The season concludes with a 2-day show with December's Devastation, Levito 324 Gaming. The Crash Course Nationals were this weekend. The main class was won by Johnny Shanks. Johnny Shanks picking up the win in the main class over Josh Atwood, Brandon Reimer, Alex Seeger, Tyler Smith. Tyler Smith's first big show, running to 5th place behind Alex Sager. Dylan Blackburn ended up with the Mad Dog efforts in the main class. Johnny Shanks, it was his first win in the Crash Course Nationals. He drove a Crown Vic to the win in that one. And also Josh Atwood and his brother Donnie, running with a heavy heart, they had to swap heats because they had a death in the family. Their grandmother had passed away, so they ran down to be with the family quick, got back, and Josh ended up making it back through the feature and then ended up winning second place overall. And Brandon Reimer right there on the cusp of it, ran out of fuel. He got hung up at one point. You start thrashing on the throttle, then you start burning gas faster than you want to. He ran out of fuel, third place for Brandon Reimer. Wire class win went to Richard Wamsley. Richard Wamsley got the wire class win in the number 74. It was his first win at the Crash Course Nationals. And then also Johnny Shanks in the weld class on Friday night ended up taking the win in that one. So he picked up 2 wins on the weekend for Johnny Shanks in that trademark Army Green roundback with the Johnny Shanks license plate from Missouri down the side. We'll be talking with him this weekend tonight as well. Kyle Homer still out in front on the leaderboard with 80 points to his credit. Andrew Hernandez with 70 points. Johnny Shanks, 56. He jumped up to third with that. Tied for fourth, Michael Coons and Anthony Hernandez with 52 points. Tied for sixth, Earl Reff, Colin Wiley, and Herb Elkins with 50 points. Ninth place is Rowdy Burns, and then tied for 10th, Trevor Mulder, Josh Atwood, Zach Drummond, and Alex Sager, who got a Mad Dog in the wire class as well. In the weld class, 36 points each for them. And again, 3 derbies left for the virtual Unified Point Series. November 4th and 5th is the next one at the Stars Fall Show coming up this weekend. So there's the update on the Unified Point Series standings at this point. 527 announcing, 527unifiedseries.com for additional details on the 2022 schedule. Of course, right now, 2022 champion officially crowned. J.D. Loreen got the championship and locked into second. Steven Sickle. Still some decisions to be made with 2 events left. Hardcore Promotions Cleanup Show the 12th of November, and then the finale, the Turkey Derby in Wabash, Indiana on the 26th. Online again, 527unifiedseries.com. And welcome back. We've got Mike Wurth back on the line. Mike, man, you have us now?
Yep, I got you.
All right, perfect. So
maybe talk a little bit louder, maybe.
Sure, we can crank that up a little bit. Well, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, now that you're out there and you had a chance to go through tech for the first time, and of course, good news about not having to cut your own front bumper off this year, and it's always fun to not have to do that in the pit area. But in terms of coming back with that defending championship situation at this point, do you feel like there's any additional pressure on the team, or on the flip side, is the pressure off the team at this point? Obviously, you don't want to let your guard down too far because you don't want to lose that national spot and have to go through this process again. But where are you guys at in terms of TBL and what you want to accomplish, and what are you guys feeling in the pits in terms of Blizzard Bash 2022?
Oh, boy. I don't. Be honest. I'd like to make it back to the feature, which would be on Sunday again, and try to do a repeat. I mean, that's what everybody's here to do. Right. Is win that big ultimate, be the national champion. I don't know really if there's much more pressure. I mean, anything can happen. I've been down here multiple years and with JYD, right, and never had good luck down here, and then my luck started going that way of doing what ultimately what you want to do is win. And I don't know, we're just having a good time like we have been with the TBL group, and just hanging out, laughing, and having a great time. So, I don't know.
Well, your whole group,
a lot will get said tomorrow. With the heat draws. The heat draws is ultimately that's who you got.
But at the same time, it almost seems as though that nobody wants to really talk about any of that stuff. Your group is one of the more laid back groups. You don't see a lot of the argument. There's not a lot of pomp and circumstance that comes out of the TBL camp. You're very kind of just let it go as it goes, and whatever happens will. Not that you don't take it serious or anything like that. You're just a little bit more laid back than other drivers and willing to roll with things. I don't doubt that you guys want to win again. I don't believe that there's ever been a back-to-back champion. I was trying to go through the laundry list here of past champions, and I don't believe any team has ever won it back-to-back years, which would be an incredible accomplishment when you consider the field of drivers that are out there and what it takes to get these cars back out there and to get them to survive long enough to get to Sunday. So certainly that would be a feather in the cap of anybody, but it's an accomplishment as well to say that you were on the track for the feature again, just in its own right. Because again, the field as always. It's stacked, and I don't know that you can look at the rundown of the national teams and say, well, this team's definitely going to be the feature, and this team's definitely going to be in the feature, and you can't look at that list on the flip side and say, well, we know that this team's going to get eliminated. The pecking order is going to take this team out. It's just one of those things where, like you said, the luck of the draw is going to not so much fall on who you face, but on who you don't face, and also how clean you come out of the heat. It can set your weekend in a very good or a very bad situation just based on those few minutes you're out there on Thursday.
Right. And, we come from Northwest Iowa, and, I got an old teammate, Booger, which is on Team Octane. Right. And, we run against them all year long. Crazy Iowans. There's 2 Iowa guys on that team. Right. And that's where it's getting to, you don't want to draw them. No. You run against them back at home. Mm-hmm. And like I said, that there is not one easy team here. No. Even on probably the qualifying side, it's stacked all the way through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no easy path at all.
No, I mean, there isn't. No easy path. the biggest deal is go through your heat. Hopefully you win. Friday you come back and hopefully you win and you move on to Sunday. If not, you got a long road ahead of you to get to that point.
You made reference to a couple of the Iowa guys that are on the Crazy Iowans. The Crazy Iowans come back as a complete team. WRP, they've got some connections.
Well, I forgot about WRP. There's a Northwest guy out there, a good friend of mine, Timmy Lang's on that team. Mm-hmm. So it's, that's what happens when you come here. There's a lot of Iowa people here.
How many times did JYD, when you're running with that team, end up having to cross paths with Octane or WRP, guys that you were hoping to be on the opposite side of the bracket with, because you guys could probably end up going out there, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and help each other advance on through the bracket once you got into the finals?
Right. You see, back when it was JYD, it seemed like we always faced black and white team, right, which would have been Dylan Lane, Dave Gockel, and them guys.
Yep.
And it's like, why aren't we getting into the opposite side of the bracket here?
Uh-huh. I remember the third year in a row when you guys had this was with Team JYD, one of the last years that the gray and orange team was there, and you guys, I don't remember, Daniel Ort was running at the time with a 21, so I think that must have been the team that eventually evolved into Kenny Rosno and WRP. I think it was that group, and
we had to face them.
Yeah, but it was like the third year in a row that you guys ended up having to go against each other, and this time it was in the opening bracket. And when the names got read, I saw both of those teams simultaneously. You just shook your head like, I can't believe this is happening again. Right. And what do? You know that in order to go out there, you need to literally eliminate your friends.
Right. And and I got a lot of respect for all them guys, you know, and at the end of the day, I hope you can go up there and shake their hands and that there's nobody mad,
Right.
I mean, for me anymore, that's what's a good feeling for me. I don't want nobody mad at me or vice versa,
Right. Before we lost you there, I was just saying that you're one of the more laid back guys out there, and to have your tech inspection go as smooth as it did is a testament to your preparation, but also your ability to just kind of roll with the punches. But at the same time, it's tough to not leave there with something personal, being experienced on the track. You want to get out there and shake hands, and but at the same time, that when you're shaking hands with somebody that you just beat in that opening round, you just made their weekend infinitely more difficult. And you might be doing it with a car the rest of the way through that's going to be a little bit cleaner, a little bit have a little bit more longevity than it would if you had to go out through that opposite side. And it's got to be a tough conversation to be had. You've been on both sides of it, and to have that finish with a victory last year with a lighter but more mobile Crown Vic that ended up being able to lock down the Imperial that Jerry Lyerly had. It had to be a great feeling, but at the same time, it's got to be even more challenging when you get out there and you walk up to Jerry Lyerly and know that we both had no steering. I had the horses. I had the more mobile car. I was able to get the thing to pivot in a place that I needed it to, and was able to pin him and win it.
Right. And when I saw those two, and in the feature, and it happened so quick, it's like, where did everybody go?
Mm-hmm.
I remember that one last fire, I think, and the red flag came out. I literally pulled my phone out and text my little brother, Sonny.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, am I the only TBL car left? Which he never responded because, I don't know, he didn't see the phone or whatever. It just happened so quick. And then I'm like, wow, it's 2 versus 1. And at that time, I didn't know Jerry didn't have steering until Kitchell went out.
Right.
Pretty much.
And Kitchell brought that same car back in the spring, if I'm not mistaken, and won the mod class at Capital City Carnage, didn't he? Or he got right down there.
I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah. I didn't make it this year to Capital Carnage to watch, but I'm pretty sure you're correct on that. And he's a phenomenal driver. He's tough to beat.
He's a guy that we were saying as he was pulling out of the track back in the spring before we go back to Blizzard Bash, he's one of those. There's a number of drivers out there that just need luck to break their way, and they're going to have a breakout, and it's going to start some momentum. And he's a guy that, with that run in the spring, he's certainly hedging on that line of one of those breakout drivers where he's going to start building a little bit of momentum. And that is a dangerous team to come into Blizzard Bash with momentum. They've been very close in a bunch of different times. So another team that kind of comes to mind just in talking about that is not Johnson Wrecking Crew anymore, JWC. They've got a different name, XP Derby Products, Zach and Troy. Those guys are another one that they marched into the national bracket and immediately staked claim to a spot in the feature, and they've been a force to reckon with since. If they get some momentum going, that's another team that they get a couple breaks that go their way. They're going to be right there in that feature discussion. So bringing all this back around to Team Busch Light, not necessarily who do you definitely want to draw, but is there a team that you wouldn't mind seeing just go to the opposite side of the bracket and you not have to deal with until it gets down to the money rounds?
Oh,
I knew that was going to be your answer
because putting me on the spot here.
Well, at the same time, I mean, I know the canned answers. We want to get out of the heat clean. We want to make sure we take care of our stuff. We want to keep our eyes on our own paper. We don't want to upset anybody. We just want to make sure that we can take care of our equipment. I get all that stuff. I understand, and it's been a rare instance that we've ever got anybody to actually name names. So. I mean, at risk of giving you the out, I get it if you don't want to ruffle any feathers early in the week, but I got to believe that there's one or two teams when you looked at that rundown and say, I just really hope that we don't have to see them until we definitely have to.
Oh, there's literally, I can't even put a number on that, to be honest with you, Chris.
I know. It's tough, isn't it?
You look at Team Kansas, I mean,
3-time national champions.
Like you said, Johnson Wrecking Crew. The list is long.
Colton Newhoffen's back with Team Extreme Ski. Colton Newhoffen, Rhett Gluey, Ryan Zongolewski, Jason Brodzinski. And there's some talk about maybe issues with the Gluey car. So that car might not even be out there. So, I mean, it's I'm helping write you the get out of jail free card here, because it is very, very difficult. Another team that I think is, like we were talking about, with that team that's on the cusp of some big things, is Team GWC and 448 Designs. Tyler Tews, right. Cody Gaines, Mike Gaines, Jacob Prusman. Jacob got a win out there at Blizzard Bash, I think, 2 years ago in one of the standalone classes. That team, they can build some pretty serious cars. Calisoda style. They've been knocking on the door. And by adding some of the people that they did to that team, that's somebody that you're not going to want to sleep on that quartet. Those four drivers can work very well together. They've added Artie Tressler to the team. I think this is one of the first times that we've seen him out there in Blizzard Bash on the team side of things, and he's going to be joining Calisoda style. So, I mean, that's somebody you don't want to sleep on. There's 16 teams, and I firmly believe that any one of them, if the cards fall their way, they could be the national champions.
Right. I mean, like I said, I mean, obviously you got to pick someone. I mean, that's the way it is. But they're all stacked. There's not one single team. Even if you look at, perfect example is, you look at WRP last year, there were 3 cars. Mm-hmm. They beat Team Octane.
Right.
And Team Octane had 4 cars.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really, if Rhett Glue got, loaded, if that's the case, I don't know. You hear so much stuff down in Topeka. If that's the case, you can't think in your mind like, yeah, I want Ski Inc.
That's not going to be an easy out. Whether it's they could go out there. We've seen Ski Inc. I believe it was Team Ski Inc. when Pete Hansen ran with them. They went out there with 2 cars and I think they got through.
Absolutely, and that was back, I want to say, in 2013, 14, or whatever.
Yeah, it was the first year.
2 cars. Pete Hansen and Ryan Sangolusi. Mm-hmm. They won the first round, maybe the second round. That's 4 against 2. So at the end of the day, I mean, who you draw, you draw. But I don't, my personal opinion, there's not one team that I would say, well, yeah, I want to draw them, because
sure,
at the end of the day, everybody's got, in my opinion, really like the same equipment, someone might have something bigger than this or whatever, vice versa. But you don't make it to the national side just having nothing really. You get what I'm saying?
Yep. I was really excited to see that Mike, Torrey Hyde, Team CPI, David Earl, Mike Schmidt, Nathan Gill, Torrey Hyde. Torrey Hyde, I don't know if he was going to retire or if he had retired and then decided to come out of retirement, whatever the case is. The number 7 was on his way back down to Blizzard Bash with Team CPI again. They had a pretty good run last year. It almost felt like that was going to be their year, the Team of Destiny, and things just didn't pan out their way. They weren't able to get there, but they're going to be back, so it'll be excited to run into those guys again. You said that it would be nice to get back to the future. It'd be nice to do that repeat champion thing and to do this all over again. $50,000 waiting out there for the win. Last year, going back, the checkered flag flew over the car. How long did it take before it actually set in that you and Cheesy and Team Busch Light as a whole with Team Busch Light Nation cheering you guys on from the stands? How long did it take for it to set in that you guys had actually accomplished this?
You know, it was kind of crazy because I wasn't expecting, like, Sonny, my brother, and Kelly Neas and Corey and Craig and Cheesy all jumping the fence out of the stands. And they all came up there with slap me or whatever, congratulating us or me or whatever. And then finally, my younger brother, Sonny's like, "Are you going to take your helmet off?" Like, you know, I had to soak it in because, like, I've been down here since Sam started this. Mm-hmm. I've had some good luck, but a lot of very, very bad luck. So to get that checkered flag, like, it was so surreal. Like, It took me a little bit to think, like, oh my God, we just won Blizzard Bash.
So has it sunk in enough? Has it sunk in enough for you to recognize when I say now welcoming Mike Wurth and Team Busch Light defending Blizzard Bash champions to where that actually is your name being said with that?
It's soaked in now.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, we're Blizzard Bash champions, you know. Let's try to do it again, you know.
Sure.
That's how I look at it.
Crown Vic again?
What's that?
You running a Crown Vic again?
Yeah, I am. 2011 again.
They seem to be okay for you. You've done some good work with those.
Yeah, and on that note, I got to thank my brother Sonny. He's literally like the brains of the build.
Uh-huh.
And without him, there would be really no Mike Wurth, really.
Is he also the one that came up with the 888 roof sign?
No, he was. I don't even know if he was born then.
That's an old roof sign.
To be honest with you, like I built this one night in the shop back in, I had to be 2001, 2002 when I graduated.
Really?
And then it just stuck with me. Everybody's like, "Are you gonna ever get a new roof sign?" I'm like, "Why?" Like, everybody knows this roof sign, you know. I mean, I always give Chicken off of Team Kansas grief because he's the one that bent it.
Right.
Because he rolled me. So it's all good, but yeah, Sonny came up, and I mean, I remember me and Booger taking him to derbies when he wasn't even really old enough to even be getting into the pits, but we snuck him in there. And then he started help me, and without Sonny, like, there's literally, I can't do this on my own. He is the brains of the build, and that's really on these 2011s and any of the cars. He's the smartest person I've ever had help me. And then my older brothers helped me, younger help, you know, and I barely got this car done, so I need to really thank Sonny, my older brother, and my younger brother, and Cheesy and his dad coming out and help me, because I didn't think we were going to get this car done.
You're probably not the only one with that story this weekend either.
Yeah, and it was crazy and back and forth, and then Sunday we had 2 fires inside the car, and luckily we had a fire extinguisher in the shop, or the whole car would have went up. Yeah, it's just been I don't think I've never had this much problems going up to Blizzard Bash. So hopefully that's all out of the way and everything goes good.
Awesome. Get the bad luck out of the way now, right?
What's that?
Just get the bad luck out of the way now. Get it all taken care of, and then
absolutely. That's what I'm talking about.
So, real quick here before we let you go, catching up with Mike Wurth with Team TBL, Team Busch Light. Mike was last car standing at Blizzard Bash last year. The pits, what have you seen? Is there a predominant car? Is there any surprises, or do the usual suspects have the usual weapons out there for Blizzard Bash at this point?
There's a mixture. You're seeing. Obviously, I don't know if I've seen some cars, not a lot. I think there's only 3 Imperials I see here.
Yeah. I'm not surprised by that.
There's wagons. I see some Rivies, a lot of Buicks. Caddies are here again. Yeah. And a lot of 9802s or 03 and newers I see.
I was surprised at the number of wagons that were coming through. I'm not sure where they're coming from at this point. It almost would strike me that Demolition Derby drivers that have been hoarding wagons for the last 20 years are realizing that they're not going to be able to finish them, or they'd like to be able to retire and realize that they're literally sitting on a gold mine. So they just started selling them off, because I saw a lot of pictures of wagons that were headed out there, and I thought it was more wagons than usual, but I mean, I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't quite know how many wagons are here. I would say probably 10 or so.
Yeah.
There could be more. I haven't really went into the barn yet and saw the cars in there, but there's a mixture of cars here.
Awesome.
There's a lot of nice Buicks driving around. 2003 and newers, 9802s. I mean, like I said, all the cars are phenomenal builds.
Right.
I mean,
it's a work of art. Have you got a chance to see cars. Justin Montgomery's car, Chicken's car?
I haven't. Actually, I drank beer with him last night, but I really didn't look at his car too much.
Dedicate some time. Go take a look at that. That is, I want to know how much time he's got in sheet metal work from the door plate back. It's going to be measured in days, not in hours. It's incredible. It's a work of art. I'm looking forward to seeing that thing up close.
Right. No, I haven't really looked at it over there. We talked and that's about it last night. We partied a little bit together. And
awesome.
I haven't really went up and looked at cars yet. I'll get there, but I just haven't done that yet.
Perfect. Well, I won't keep you anymore. I appreciate you making some time for us. We got another break queued up. Mike, thanks a lot. I look forward to catching up with you down there on Thursday ahead of the qualifying heats. Hopefully all the draws and everything go smooth and the rest of the team gets through tech without any trouble. Be safe. Don't spend a lot of money tonight. Save it for the rest of the weekend.
All right, will do. I appreciate it.
Of course, Mike. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, see you. Bye.
See you now. There goes Mike Wurth. We do have a break. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back after that, and we're going to catch up with Tony Burkhart. Talk a little bit about his opening round hit last year that everybody was talking about and see how that situation has aged. We're going to be right back. The 2022 Hardcore Tour is set to wrap up November the 12th. They've got their fall cleanup show. $100 entry, 100% payback, plus $500 from Hardcore to the Limited Weld full-size class. $60 entry, 100% payback, and $500 from Hardcore to each of the Hardcore Compacts, Hobby Stocks, and Street Stock Compacts. $50 entry, 100% payback for the Youth Compacts, Youth Full-Size, Bone Stock Full-Size, and the Minivans, Trucks, and SUVs. All that goes down at the Fayette County Fairgrounds in Dunbar, Pennsylvania. If you're looking for additional rules or additional information, jump online, hardcorederbypromotions.com, or jump on their very active Facebook page and check in with Frankie Guy. Once again, Hardcore's 2022 season going to wrap up November the 12th at the Fayette County Fairgrounds in Dunbar. Online, hardcorederbypromotions.com. Demolition Derby Life magazine releases 12 copies a year and covers all of the action coast to coast for the Demolition Derby world, home of the hottest action motorsports magazine on the market. There's over 30 editions that have been published to date. A full year subscription is $119, and past issues are available. They should be coming out with another release here in the coming weeks. Make sure you jump online and follow along. Find out more about Lexi Droz and everything going on with Demolition Derby Life magazine on demolitionderbylife.com. RPM Group is a progressive waste management business serving nearly 4,000 residents and businesses around Owego, New York. RPM Group can take care of all your waste management needs. Boasting a fleet of 2 roll-offs and 6 garbage trucks, RPM is fully insured and ready to serve. Ask about asbestos abatement and surveys, interior and exterior demolition, private parties and foreclosures, curbside trash and recycling, all that and more. Click or call, ask for Corey, tell him you heard about him here at the Crash Course Nationals, rpmgroupny.com, or 607-223-8714. And we are back. We got Tony Burkhart waiting in the wings, man. Tony, he made some waves, if you will, at Blizzard Bash last year with a hit in the opening round, and I saw some of those pictures floating about here as the 1 year ago posts started showing up on different memory feeds and stuff. And Tony not running down there at Blizzard Bash this year, which is unfortunate. I'm gonna miss seeing the MHM cars on track, but nonetheless, that still is a topic. It's still a hot topic. It's still one of the most enduring shots that we've seen from out there in Topeka, with his car hanging off the back of that Imperial. Ranks right up there with the jump rope picture that Mike Wurth had posted back there a couple years ago when he turned that slider drive shaft into a U. Make sure you check that picture out. Mike got that on his pages as well. Tony, man, how has this aged in your world? This is still a topic that continues to come up.
It died off. I'm actually surprised it died off. But then here we are 1 year later, and it's popping back up like crazy again. What do you really say about it? It was one of the funnest, dumbest hits you could have in my personal career of derbying, I guess.
What did you think was going to happen when you took that shot? Did you know that you were sacrificing the steering at that point, or was the steering? I almost think that the steering was already compromised, if not broke.
Yep, it was already busted when I was going on the opposite end of the track. He actually ended up breaking my steering box where the pitman arm attaches to the steering box here. That would already snapped off. And then from there, it was just luck of the draw. His teammate turned me, and then everything was straight. So once my car fired back up after dumping a ton of fuel into the car, just hit the throttle and go.
Did it?
Just wherever it went, it went. I was actually really hoping I would have caught more bumper on that and went more in, not up. Mm-hmm. But it is what it is.
I'm going to get into the science of that here in just a second. But first, as you took off, I mean, is that one of those slow motion moments? Did you hear angels singing that you were just, oh my gosh, this is the juiciest hit that I'm going to have all night long, and just had to go for it? Was it slow motion as you went up on the back of that thing?
I didn't think it was going to be as crazy of a hit as it apparently was. I mean, I just wear a lap belt, and I figured, for how fast everything's going, from what I've seen of horror stories and so on and so forth, I figured I was going to be eating the steering wheel for sure, but it actually really wasn't that bad. But going up to the hit was just kind of, all right, here we go. That's how it went.
We saw it coming from up in the booth, and I think the only thing that was more impressive than the hit itself was the resonating burst from the hit. The noise, it sounded like a shotgun going off when it everything got through there. And I'm glad that he had the window bar built the way that he did. It did rip the window bar off, but it stopped your momentum with the pillar, and you didn't get any of the dangerous parts of the car. So that was one of the things that keeps this as that's one of the subtle blessings in disguise that keeps this being a fun story to come back to here a year later, that nobody was hurt, because it could have been. I mean, it could have gone far worse than it actually did for everybody, other than breaking some steering components that were already compromised anyway.
Right.
It could have been bad. But in a more serious tone, though, just talking with Mike Wurth, he said there's only a handful of Imperials out there. You had it was a box Lincoln, if I remember right. At least the sheet metal on the nose was a box Lincoln, right?
Yep.
And you ended up having you had a chance at really doing some damage on a subframe Imperial, and that bumper, if you caught that bumper, it was probably going to wrap those leaf springs right up in the air. The science of that hit, if it went right and you caught more bumper, it really would have changed the perspective on things for that Imperial the rest of the weekend too, I've got to believe.
Right, and counting leaf packs and going into the whole, I try not to look at people's cars.
Sure.
I really don't. It's just when you're walking by, you just notice little things like that, and counting leaves and seeing how things are arched and how many shackles and how big the perches are, and you just kind of go, that could be really fun to hit.
Right.
And it wasn't a strategy by any means. It doesn't matter who you are on the track. I'm going to hit you. I don't care.
Right.
So, but the whole point was it's a team show and someone's got to get hit. And the unfortunate thing is it didn't matter if it was my best friend or my brother or my dad. It wouldn't have mattered. If you were in my way, you're getting smacked. So that's yeah.
When looking at the Imperial itself, there's only, I heard word that there's only 3 out there. Not all the national teams are there yet. But at best, on the national side, you'd see 16 Imperials. At best. We didn't get anywhere close to that last year. And I'm trying to figure out, as somebody who spent a lot of time running around Minneapolis where Mopars are, I think that, I don't think I'm up speaking out of school saying that you're probably more prone to drive Fords than you're going to be to Mopars at this point in your driving career, right?
I mean,
I
question bringing a Mopar down there. Not gonna lie, just because Minnesota is definitely a Mopar place.
But at home, you're more prone to being a Ford product versus a Chrysler product.
Oh, absolutely.
At this point. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page there. So having run around,
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of having a hard time hearing you. You sound like you're way across the room.
Okay. All right. Let me take a peek at that. So that being said. Lost my train of thought for a moment. So you've been around those cars, you know how to pick them apart and stuff like that. The Imperial is so point and shoot out there, and especially a subframe car is giving up so much in terms of the frame rails not being there, and what you're limited in terms of being able to get everything tied together and trying to almost build a frame rail inside the car that's not there to begin with and tie it together with stuff that's sort of floating in terms of the construction of the car. Is the Imperial, not to say that it's immediately at a disadvantage, but is the subframe Mopar just not a viable car with the national build rules?
To be honest with you, it's such a tit for tat. It depends on the builder, honestly.
Yeah.
My personal opinion of it is I don't think a Imperial is suited for that track.
Sure.
I think the cars are built for doing long bomb shots like the Big Hit was.
Yep.
Going from point A to point B as long as possible, straight shots. That's how I grew up watching Imperials was, long hits. They can't turn on a dime like a Vic. They can't, they're not a very nimble car, and their steering is weak. To me, granted, I destroy steering a lot, but I think when it comes to what's going to be the weakest portion on a car, I think the steering in an Imperial is probably the weakest link out of all the cars put together.
Right.
Unless you start swapping things around, like putting Ford parts in Chevys or so on and so forth. There's so many different options you can do out there, but trying to find that system that works is going to be the biggest issue with those Imperials out there. Now there's guys that have them figured out, those guys that have plenty of parts, and there's guys that have plenty of friends that can help swap out lower control arms on a full frame or a subframe car. And if you've never been around them enough to know the amount of work that goes into that, you're in for a real surprise. So
they're not cookie cutter builds for sure. And
no, they're not the easiest thing to put together as far as full frame would go anyways, but yeah, I think that's the only downside with an Imperial is just that steering. But if you can get a long bomb shot and something opens up for you, I think the Imperials would have been absolutely, hands down one of the coolest cars to see on that track. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people were let down last year with a lot of the Imperials that showed up.
It was a good story. It was a good story at the end to have the Imperial be runner-up and Jerry Lyerly with the Iowans and the crazy Iowans and Mike Wurth.
That came down to the driver and the building, too.
Yep, big time. And it was a full-frame car. We're not talking about a subframer in that equation either. The subframe car, the other issue that you run into the subframe cars, and we've seen this in other classes. There was a mod car out there. There was a stock car. They've got their time and place. Ben Plate and that crew was able to pick up a win in the extreme class with a shocker. But you talk about the subframe car and how they're so hard, but then you have the concerns about being able to tie everything in behind where the subframe bolts up and network it into the cage. What the discussion often overlooks is on a full frame car like a Crown Vic or on a full frame car like a 70s GM. They've also got the rails from behind the humps that going back to the back bumper. There's a connecting piece between those two. There's a cross link that ties both of those rails together to give us some rigidity behind that back bumper. And the subframe cars don't have that either, because that's not tied to anything, because the sort of frame rails or the floor or whatever way you want to describe that is essentially floating. So you've got that rigidity that goes away over the top of the arches. So if it's a subframe car, you can essentially compromise that car in a major way in just about 3 hits between the shear forces of the track and the grip, what you can do in terms of removing all the structural integrity with just a good, solid, steep angle shot along the quarter panel and use the edge of that bumper as a can opener and rip open the quarter panel. After that, you lose all control of how that thing's going to bend in the back, and you can just mash them in from the sides and narrow up the trunk, and then it dumps and it's over. 3 shots can end up making that car be in a situation that is not favorable to fixing it the rest of the weekend, let alone just putting it into a situation where it's in trouble on the track.
Right. And it also boils down to how their cage is mounted, too. I
Sure.
mean, how they're tying it in. They get down bars, too, that are allowed to go to the frame. And then not only that, per the rules on the qualifying national side, you also get 9-wire that can go to your transmission mount, too. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you got plenty of options. You know, you're allowed 2 spots, 4 wraps of wire or
right.
cable in each window. So, I mean, there's plenty of options to play and make things hard and, you know, keep things locked in there, even right off the bat before you even get fix-it plates. Sure.
So as much as I was picking on the subframe Imperials, I'd like to turn the conversation then to Tim Lang, who's out there. I don't know what car he's got, who has built another, who's got a reputation of building very, very good Cordobas. We saw the evolution of the no-namers team. There was a pink and black team back when Dials and Rachel and everybody were running. They had all those Cordobas come out there the one year. They are viable in the nose, and those are lighter cars than what we were talking about in terms of the full frame Imperial, the subframe Imperial, Y-framers, and some of the full-size shockers and stuff that we've seen come through. The St. Regis and the Cordoba, they've been able to put the build together, stay clean, and be a viable car at Blizzard Bash and the team formats and go deep, especially Tim Lang in recent memory. And I think, again, it comes back to somebody knowing what they're doing, having a lot of experience with the car, and being able to pick their shots. There's so much that goes into Blizzard Bash that is just based on shot placement. Your strategy can be aggressive, but if you're just going out there and hitting nose-to-nose with everybody, it's not going to be the same strategy as if you start targeting the right parts of the cars that you're hitting so you don't inflict collateral damage on yourself.
Right. You know, and not taking away from Tim Lang, he can build a really good Cordoba. Not last year, the year before that, my teammate Tyler Idle, he built the Cordoba too. That was, you know, looking underneath it, just how everything's tied in. And those cars are very, very. If you have been around them, you know the spots and how everything's put together.
Mm-hmm.
You can build a pretty nasty Cordoba to those rules if you have the time and the know-how. Especially with the cradles and, you know, being creative with everything. So
creativity's king, isn't it?
What's that?
Creativity is king, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The only thing that outlines the creativity to the rules there is the tech. So trying to figure out what they're going to allow and what they're not, depending on how you interpret the rules, is a whole nother ball game. And that's a whole nother fight in itself, which I think is half the battle of going down the Blizzard Bash.
Are we going to see you back down there next year?
All I've been telling people is I'm just not running this year. That's all I'm saying. I'm not. You can read into it how you want, but that's all I've been telling people.
I saw that in the text message that you sent me back when I was trying to get you to come on the show.
Yep.
Not down there this year. All right. Well, there's some gray area in that response, I suppose.
I'm not saying anything more. I mean, there's plenty of other shows that are piquing a lot of interest, and I've been talking to a few other people about setting some things up. But the main thing is you know, it's having a clear head and not being so, I guess, over the top with things, and, you know, trying to level my own personal self out. So, that's my own personal fight I need to worry about, not anybody else's. So
It seemed like this season went well for you. I saw a lot of pictures of MHM cars on your Facebook page. It seemed like the year was good to you. Whether you traveled down to Kansas or not, it was still a pretty good season.
right, yeah, that I still have the Lincoln sitting on the trailer actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
At one point, wasn't it for sale?
No, I was joking about the whole raffle thing.
I gotcha.
Because raffles were getting so out of hand, and they still are, in my opinion.
They are.
I can't fathom the amount of money that people are actually getting off of raffles. But hey, to each their own.
Yep.
And my thing was, well, let's have fun with it. So I put up my 40-foot gooseneck trailer, the car with turnkey car, and I think a grand total was like $75,000. And there was people that were willing to throw down on it. I'm like, oh my god!
Right. At that point, you could if someone came up to the door with that and said, "Here, let's make this happen." I don't think we would be seeing you in Derby anytime soon. You'd be doing something far more fun than getting in arranged car accidents, right?
What was that? I could barely hear you.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure what's going on with that. If you ended up having somebody drop off $75,000 and say, "I'm going to take the trailer and the car," we probably wouldn't be hearing from Tony for a couple years.
Honestly, I'd probably reinvest. Not gonna lie, I'd probably just have a little better setup than what I have now. So,
well, that wouldn't be bad either.
Because it's about knowing where you're going to put your money. I've spent a lot of years losing at putting money in the wrong spots. So, and I'm not saying I'm going to win constantly, but I have better odds now than I did 11 years ago. I'll tell you that.
You have to do something for 10,000 hours before you become an expert at it.
Well, what was it, 2016? I was naive enough to think that I could build every part for my car for Capital City Carnage. The first one where they were allowing mod cars.
Right.
Yeah, that didn't fare so well either.
Well, you got to try it. You checked the box.
What's that?
You checked the box. You tried it.
I did. I checked the box. I went for it, tried it, liked it, and then decided, stop being ignorant and realize you just need to put your money where your mouth is. And you do, unfortunately, need to pay for some things. Now, Granted, there's guys out there that have the abilities to, fabricate their own parts. They have very good friends. They have great motor knowledge, great transmission help. There's plenty of other people out there that have that. Mm-hmm. When it comes to transmissions, no, I will pay somebody else for that. I'm not dealing with it.
I gotcha.
But as far as parts goes, I've had my hand in fabrication, and maybe I'm just getting lazy, but I let my kid do most of the stuff now that he's getting into it. So
right. How's things going there?
What's that?
How's things going there with your boy getting into it?
Oh, well, the first car he built a decent car. I mean, it was for, it's a certified chain car. Ain't nothing crazy. The only downfall was his rear end. Didn't have, I got an 8 lug, and he wanted to switch out rear ends, and I couldn't find one fast enough for him. So he just had to run the stock C-clip. And about a minute and a half in, blew the axle, but then he just kept going with 3 wheels. So then he's chomping every bit to get a new rear end in there. So we'll see what Santa wants to bring to him this winter. So
awesome. Well, please keep in touch. Hopefully Santa's good to him and drops off something good. I don't know how you're going to get it underneath the tree, but Santa can work magic. Keep in touch, of course, and let us know how all that stuff's coming together up there. It's always good to catch up with you, and hopefully at some point we can catch up next year. It's been a while since I've seen you.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll figure something out.
That sounds great, man. Always good to catch up, and hopefully the photos make the rounds this weekend and everything's well received.
Sounds good. Thanks.
I appreciate it, Tony. We'll catch up with you soon.
Bye.
See you now. There goes Tony Burkhart. We do have one last bit to tell you about. We're going to tell you about All For Him Racing, and then we're going to get out of here and put a cap on episode number 418. We'll be right back.
Where'd you go? We did doing a derby. Ow, my head. You want to do a derby?
Hey Derby World, this is All For Him Racing Videos, where Derby never ends. We have people come up and ask, what is All For Him Racing Videos? And the answer is a YouTube channel dedicated to growing the sport of demolition derby in a positive and fun way. Our passion is to show the next generation the sport and capture the memories for generations to come. We're just trying to show that you can be a Christian, do crazy and exciting things like demolition derby, and just spread the word. We have traveled all over the country filming events, all while meeting many great people, hearing amazing stories, seeing the passion for this sport, and falling in love with the derby community. We have grown to be the largest demolition derby channel on YouTube across the world, with millions of views within our large library of videos. We love what we do and can't wait for what the future has in store. We always want to be a place for positive, exciting, and action-packed derby videos. Thank you, Derby World, and enjoy the videos.
And we are back, just wrapping things up on episode number 418. Big thanks out to Mike Wurth and Tony Burkhart hanging out with us and giving us a little bit of time to talk about Blizzard Bash. Blizzard Bash is upon us. Heat draws are tomorrow night, so we're looking forward to that. I'm going to be getting out there on Thursday for the opening round of action with the national and qualifying side Heat 1s as they kick off the brackets there. I'm looking forward to getting out there and seeing everybody, like I've said, Cal Soda style, already going across the lift and getting their tech inspection through. A ton of metal packed into Ryan Shiver's car, of course. I have not seen the video of the lift trying to lift his car up, but we all remember the big game is how heavy can you make the car, and Ryan's car has not been able to come up off the ground. It was so heavy the last couple of years, so something to kind of keep your eyes on there as that evolves. And then again, some of those teams still on their way through into Impound, and they've got to be locked up tonight out there in Topeka at the Stormont Vale Event Center. I think at this point we've covered everything. If you haven't yet, I think there's still a little bit of time. You get out there and log your vote. Make sure you take advantage of that here on the 8th of November. Again, Election Day. I don't know if you know this, Nate, but it's scheduled to be the first Tuesday after the first Monday of November. Always scheduled that way. So if the month starts on a Tuesday, you're going to have to wait a little while. Put that off. So that's the next Tuesday after the first Monday. We were talking about that at school. This has been a fun week getting ready to go out there to Topeka and make sure to see Steve Bucknam and call some of that awesome action that we see year in and year out there at the Stormont Vale Event Center as we get ready for Blizzard Bash 2022. Mike Wurth made some time for us, and we tried to break down some of these teams once again, just running through everything. Make sure you jump on to Smash It's Facebook page. The link is out now for the fantasy teams. You can get that logged in. It's free to make a team, so there's no reason not to. I still defy you. Try to figure out how you can predict the winner of the stacked roster, just quickly leafing through the national and qualifying team. It's a hard one to do. Dylan Godwin checking in, said that his A to Z team boss, Jake Lyon, is a good friend of his. William Willis, the Heat draw is going to be live. It typically is. I'm not going to be out there for it, William. Unfortunately, wasn't able to make the time off work at school. I need to save a little bit of time for February for some other projects that we've got working on. So I'm going to be out there for the first night of action. I imagine Steve at Derby Nation will be able to answer that for you. Also watch the Facebook page. They're going to give that live agenda out there as well. You watch the whole thing live on Derby Nation, DerbyNation.tv. You get the weekend pass. Make sure you check that out. It's also going to be available on demand. And then eventually you can go back and watch past Blizzard Bash events on demand or on the YouTube pages. That's going to do it for us here. Episode number 418 in the books. We're going to be back again with probably a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night show next week to recap everything that happens at Blizzard Bash. We are not going to be live on Figure Lakes 1 out there this year. But make sure you keep an eye on the Crash Course page. We'll give you some updates and some pictures to take a look at as we work through Blizzard Bash 2022. That's going to do it for this one. We look forward to seeing you again next week. And then don't forget, Monday we're going to have JYD, John Alexander. He's going to be making the trip up. And I believe Jason Drow is also going to be in studio along with Alex Sager to kind of just talk a little bit about where things are at in the Derby landscape here in New York and down there in southeastern Pennsylvania and Maryland. We'll be able to look forward to that in a couple weeks as well. That's going to do it. We appreciate it. 418's in the books. We'll see you next time.
The Crash Course Live is presented by Smash It Demolition Derby, who host Bash for Cash, Blizzard Bash, and Capital City Carnage. Online at smashitderby.com. And Stirring Dirt Racing, hosts of May Mania's team show at the Golden Spike Arena in Ogden, Utah, online at stirringdirtracing.com. Reckless Abandon Derby Apparel, and Derby Inc. Magazine. This is the Crash Course Demolition Derby podcast, recorded live at the FingerLakes1.com studios in downtown Seneca Falls, New York.